You know, you can have the best speech in the world, but if no one books you, you're just rehearsing. How do professional speakers actually get the gigs? So, on today's show, we're going to dig into the real business of speaking, how to source opportunities, maybe structure a retainer or two, contracts, price your work, and more. And who better to help us than a guest who's built a Hall of Fame speaking career? Are you ready? Let's go. Today's guest, Shep Hyken, is a customer service and experience expert, researcher, and the chief amazement officer of Shepherd Presentations. He's a New York Times and Wall Street Journal best-selling author of 8 books, and he's been inducted into the National Speakers Association Hall of Fame for lifetime achievement in the speaking profession. I'm going to let him take it from here, fill in some blanks. He'll do a better job of it than I will. So, Shep, welcome to the show. Pretend you're just being brought up on stage. You know, you got about that 1 minute to get the audience right. What do you want to tell us about you?
Well, I think based on that introduction, the goal today is to talk about the real job. It's not doing the gig, it's getting the gig. And that's what we're going to talk about.
Perfect. You know, I always look at it sort of as, when I tell people, it's like throwing a party. You can have the best caterer, you can have the lighting right, the music looks good, all the decorating, but if nobody comes to the party, not much of a party.
Just a lot of leftovers. I'm looking forward to that.
See, you're a half full guy, I can tell. All right, you built a career out of this. What do you think separates you from those who are constantly chasing the next booking?
Wow, that's a great question. Number one, I treat this as a business, and it is a lifestyle business, no doubt. But I believe in a very disciplined approach. From the very beginning of my career, when I chose to get into this, I had actually seen Tom Hopkins and Zig Ziglar, both on the same night, by the way. And I bought this book by Tom and audio cassette tapes, if you can remember cassette tapes way back then, from Zig Ziglar. And in the book by Tom Hopkins, it talked about this sales process, about how it's all numbers, and it had this formula that basically you'll learn over time, make enough calls, then a percentage of those people are interested, and a percentage of those people will buy from you. And I took that to heart. I also took a look at the Zig Ziglar concepts of goal setting. That's what these audio cassettes were about. And I created a 10-year plan, and which was great. I actually hit my 10-year mark in year 8 and then started another 10-year plan. And then I went on. But you asked me a very specific question. And I think the first answer is the discipline of recognizing we're a business and creating a system, which was my numbers game, making a certain number of calls every single week, no matter what. I remember sitting at payphones while I'm doing speaking gigs 2 hours before the gig. I'm on the phone making long distance calls. I don't know. So many people are too young to remember you had to make an 800 number call and you put in your code and they billed you in 6-second increments. It's crazy. But I'll never forget a client once saying, I am so impressed with this guy. We hired him and then he doesn't know it, but I was next to him listening to him make sales calls all morning. And that was a fun revelation that apparently I was doing something right. But anyway, the discipline of the business is really important. As I mentioned, the job's not doing the speech, it's getting the speech, and we got to create a system that does that. I'm relentless with content today, creating content. I would say for those listening, if you're starting out, the quickest way to get a booking is to go direct to a person who can book you. And that takes time, effort, and energy. And it's today, you don't necessarily smile and dial on the phone. You jump on LinkedIn, you build relationships, you find ways to get in the door, and then start talking about what you do. The other way, and by the way, that is the push method. The pull method is to throw content out there, just like you would cast a fishing line with a piece of bait on it, and hopefully somebody bites on the content or bites on your bait, and you reel them in and get them interested in what you talk about. and build a relationship that way. That's primarily what I do today. And I think we are going to cover the gamut from the beginning to where I currently am today. And what we've got a 3 hour conversation. Is that what you
No, it'll just feel like 3 hours. No, of course not.
exactly, exactly.
Let's hope not, or we're both out of work. Okay. I had somebody tell me, come on the show, and I couldn't find the source other than him saying it, but it really made me scratch my head. Said that 10% of those who label themselves professional speakers are actually earning more than 10,000 a year. Okay. So
Only 10,000 a year is
yeah, exactly. So I saw
yeah.
you wince, but it speaks to what you're talking about. You started the answer with, this is what I do. In my opinion, if you want to be a professional speaker, you can't do this and four other things at the same time and
Right.
see what gigs may come your way. You got to push all your chips in and be all in. And I agree with you. I think it's a discipline, but I think it's also a commitment.
Yeah, now there are people, let's not eliminate the people that are trying to get into the business that still have a full-time job and they're looking for the opportunity to transition. And until that happens, where they get enough bookings and have the confidence that they're going to make a living, even if it's less than what they're making now, realizing they'll probably make more in the future. We have that part-time pro, and the part-time pro does everything I'm talking about in moderation. But more than anything, you said it well earlier I don't know if it was in the introduction. At some point, you said if you've got a great speech, it doesn't really matter unless you're getting booked. You could be the best speaker, and it makes no difference. As far as one thing that I do want to make clear is no matter what, for the part timer, no matter what your other job is, if you're going to be a speaker, you got to be known for that. Okay. So you can't talk about other things that you do. Um, and how do I make this clear? My background from growing up as a little kid, 12 years old, did my first paid engagement in front of an audience. I was a magician
Wow.
at a birthday party in front of a bunch of screaming 6-year-old kids. And I got paid to be there. Now that's not really a speech, but it is a paid gig, right? And so I became very, very good at performing for birthday parties and eventually in nightclubs and comedy clubs and corporate events all the way through college. And it was less than a year out of college that I started my speaking business. But here's what I noticed magicians were doing. And this is kind of a great metaphor or an example of what some speakers are guilty of. Not but it's a small percentage. But when they talk to me about why am I not getting gigs and I go on their website, trying to figure out exactly what they do is one thing. But being confused by what they do is another. And the example is if I am a magician and I want to do corporate events, there shouldn't be a picture of me doing a birthday party right next to that stage with a lot of people in an audience at a conference. It's like, I don't get it. It's confusing. So I have a friend of mine who we talked a little bit about, his business, and he has his main core topic, and he's got these subtopics. Well, they're not even subtopics; they're just different topics that aren't feeding his main business. He enjoys those more than the main one. So I said, you're going to have to make a choice, and the choice is financial. You're not going to get paid as much to do this, but if you love it, you should absolutely do it. Okay. However, if you want this to be a feeder for a few opportunities to do what you love, get that off of your website. Don't even go there until that client already loves you for what they think you're going to do for them. And as you start to do it, they start to learn what other options you can provide that may or may not have anything to do with the original reason they hired you. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but the key is you have a lane, you stick to it, and that's what you are known for. And if you decide to switch lanes, it's not like you're going to have to start over, but you're going to drop off dramatically with people who know what it is that you've been doing to try to educate them and bring in a whole new audience for something new. So I'm a customer service experience guy. I've been that guy for 43 years now. I haven't changed to talk about sales and leadership or any other business topic. I don't talk about diversity. If you ask me to do something outside of my lane, unless I can tie it to what I'm really good at, I'm going to recommend other speakers. And I will not be known for anything other than what I do. And I think that works for me. And I think it would work for most people as well.
Oh, I think don't undersell that. I think that's really important. From this angle, I'm a sales trainer, born, bred, fed,
Yep.
former. That's what I do. That's who I am. And every time, and I'm 33 years on my own, and another 8 with Xerox, etc. But every time I've made a mistake is when I wanted to broaden that umbrella and be a little something for everybody. You can't sell it, you can't market it. Look, you're a guy with some successful books. I guarantee you're not going to get a publisher with a book for everybody. So we have to know what our niche is and not be afraid to really surround that niche. I think that's a really important point you're making.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, Shep. I'm smiling. You hit up a few things. First of all, I had Tom Hopkins on as a guest mainly because when my book started hitting, every time I wanted to find my book, I'd find Hopkins, and then Jollis was kind of near it.
Yeah, you
Plus,
go right at the next
yeah,
letter in the alphabet.
yeah,
Well, Hij, but
yeah. And then I was a New York Life agent in the 1980, and that's when one of Tom's books was really hot, and we were all given that book to read.
How
So
to Master the Art of Selling.
exactly.
That's the one I bought.
Right, me too. Right, and you can still see them, by the way. They're still
Yeah.
out there. Those
Yeah.
books are on the shelf. Uh, but I also learned something interesting from a magician once, just real quick in that diversion. But a magician once told me, he said, when I give what you should do is think like a magician. And I said, what do you mean? He says, well, when I get up on stage, I take my second best trick, and that's what I lead with. And then I do my act, and then I close with my best trick. And as a speaker, I've always looked at that as, okay, what's my second best story or analogy or quote? What's that second best move that I can make? Let's not keep it in our hip pocket too long. Let's get it out there. But the best one is going to be the last one.
Yeah. Or something that resembles what would be considered a pinnacle of the speech.
Right.
No doubt. I look at magic as my background, being in the entertainment business. And even the first few years as I entered into the speaking business, I still was getting called for those entertainment gigs. And I kept trying to say, how do I get away from this? I don't even push this anymore. People remember you for what you do. But if I didn't speak, or excuse me, if I didn't entertain in front of all of those audiences, sometimes, I mean, I don't know how many, 100, 120, 130 a year gigs to do. And I'm working like a corporate event where they have me do a trade show where I'll do 12 shows in one day. They're short 15, 20-minute presentations, but man, you get good when you get practice. And I believe that what allowed me to enter into this business with some good chops was the reps on stage. So I would also say to somebody starting out in this business, you've got to get on stage. I don't care what you do to get there. Give it away if you have to. You've got to get good. And not that many years ago, I stopped doing it, mostly because I didn't feel like I had to anymore. Trying new material is really an interesting idea. It makes you fall in love with the business all over again because it's fresh, it's new and exciting. But when I would come up with what I would consider to be a totally brand new speech, I would offer it to a local business. I'm a part of a business network. I said, let me come to your company, no charge, but you got to give me real feedback. You got to take the notes so I know how I can make this better. What resonates with you? What didn't? What should I leave out? What's a waste? What's fluff? And that was a powerful way of getting in front of people. I did this with all the local universities. I made relationships with business teachers. I can't remember all their names, but it wasn't like I knew them from before. I just said, look, this is what I do. I'd love to come into your class and talk about this concept. And hardly anybody says no to that. They have that outside person coming in. And even after I'd written several books, I'm still doing that. But today, like I say, I don't do it quite as much. My goal is sustaining, not growing my business.
Right.
That's just where I am today.
Yeah, you and me
Yep.
both. I refer to what you just described as ring work, and I
Yeah.
look at it like a boxer. I just need a sparring partner. For me, do you remember an organization called Open University, or it was also called the Learning Annex? And
Yes.
back in the 80s, I think they may still, I don't think they're still there, but for a while, you see those metal boxes where the realtors would put their things, newspapers would be next to them, and Open University. And a lot of it was, how to find a date, how to drink wine, but you could sneak some business things. And that's where I got a lot of my ring work. I got $7 a head for people who came in. But I got somebody to set up a room, gave me an overhead projector. Sorry, folks, that's what we were using, and
Yeah,
an
we still call
audience.
them transparencies for overheads, but slides. We still call them slides. There's no slides anymore.
Right, right.
It's the
So
PowerPoint deck or the whatever.
yeah, but I like that. And that Rotary Club, for instance, not only can we get some ring work from the Rotary Club, we never know, there might be a prospect in there. We
Yeah.
might be extending our network. So I love that. All right, let's jump on to speakers that are focusing heavily on websites and social media. In your experience, how important are those compared to relationships and referrals? It's almost an unfair question because it's apples and oranges, but just kind of give me a sense of where all
Yeah.
that lays.
I mean, I think referrals, excuse me, are the best way to get business, no doubt. Why a website? Why should you invest strong, big money in a website? When I say big, you're not going to invest $1,000. You're not going to have your kid do it. You're going to do it right. Why? Because when they look at the website, that website has to reflect the credibility of what you do, and it has to give off the illusion, call it an illusion, of the fee being what it is, so that when they finally talk to you, they don't have sticker shock. They expect that you're going to charge a high fee or a fee that you do quote. When I say high, that's beauty's in the eye of the beholder. High fees are in the eye of the speaker, if you will. If you think 2,500 is a big one, or 25,000 or 250,000, that's up to you to decide. But if I've got a website that is obviously antiquated, clunky, and I'm trying to charge a high fee, my credibility is going to be shot. Same thing with the video. You got to do it right. If you want to get business, all of your marketing collateral, even if you're getting referred, because people are going to say, you need to call Shep. What do? They Google you, they go to your website, they see your number, they call, or they see the form, they fill it out, and they say, Rob sent me. Oh, great, very, very much. But guess what? They were on that site, and it established some type of credibility. So I think that it's very, very important. So I think I'm answering your question.
Yep.
Referrals or website. And with the website goes the video. By the way, that's really the most important things you need in this business. Tangible are a website, and you need the video. At a certain fee, you have to have it. At a lower fee, if you're charging, a lot of trainers don't necessarily need that type of collateral, because they can actually talk to a client, create outlines, build relationships, and sell very custom work into the business. They don't charge a high keynote fee. People want to see what you do. A sizzle reel is great. Having a video with a longer presentation or longer clips so the audience can see is also important. The sizzle reel has got to reflect at least what you charge, if not more. And then ideally, when they look at your longer speech, a lot of people are doing TEDx type talks. They're only 15 to 20 minutes. That's a great length for somebody to say, that person's good. I want them. I like that main core topic they're talking about. I want that. So really, what you need in the business, video, website. After that, overarching over everything is you need what's between your ears here and behind your eyes. You need that brain, because that's really what they're paying for. They want information delivered to them in a certain way that gets people to take action, motivates them, inspires them to another level. And if all they wanted was information, to quote Ty Boyd, many, many years ago, he said this. He was a former president and member of the National Speakers Association. He says, if all they want is information, they'll go buy a book. If they
Yep.
want us, we're going to add everything else around it.
Yeah. All right. Well, you brought up the word book. Now, you're a guy who's got some books and
Yeah,
books that have done well. You didn't mention that in just now in terms of that list of items. Do you work with speakers bureaus, Shep?
I work with quite a few bureaus,
All
yes.
right. Have you found one yet that will pick up a speaker without a book?
Um, I don't know. That's a great question. I don't think everybody has to have a book to be successful. The book is probably a phenomenal, more than anything, for me anyway. When I wrote my book because I thought, okay, I'm going to make money selling this in the back, or pre-orders prior to my speech, and this is going to be a great way to make a little extra money. And a friend of mine said, you're going to make $1 million off of this book. I go,
Yeah.
wow, that's a lot of books. He goes, no, no, it's a lot of speeches. If this book is as good as I think it is, this will get you the credibility you need to close the deal. Now, if you're asking me if I am looking at a speaker's website, two speakers, both websites, they both look great. One has a book and the other one doesn't. Maybe the book is what tips the scale. And it's not because of the weight of the book. It's because it's another piece of collateral material that you can put into their hands that has credibility. So this is what I talk about. So I'll pull books off of my shelf and I'll say to the client, here's a book. There's one particular book I have that has 52 tools. It was built for a once a week conversation. Said, I argue that all 52 work for every company, but here's what I want you to do. I want you to choose your 10 favorite because those are going in your speech. Wow. I get to customize based on what they like out of my books. That's pretty strong. So the books really do well. But there's something else you mentioned in the introduction. You mentioned the word researcher. So I have actually right here my annual report. See if I can hold it up. It's like this.
There you go.
Yeah, there it is. It's a beautiful report. It's like 36 pages or something like that of stats and facts related to customer service and experience. I do this every year. Been doing it for a number of years, and it's a huge credibility piece. It's now that I have the book behind me, and yeah, I've had New York Times, Wall Street Journal, USA Today, and of course, pretty much every one of them hits the Amazon list. I've had all of those accolades, but now that I've done that, what's next? Another book? Try to go through all of that again. And by the way, I will probably write another book because I enjoy the process. But the research, oh my gosh, every year I find out what's trending, what's changed in the customer service and experience world. And this is free to anybody that goes to my website. They don't even have to give me an email to get it. They just click on it, it downloads. And by the way, this is not a promotion. This is ungated content. And I used to gate it, asking for gating means you ask for a piece of information, mainly an email address, so you can add them to your list, and then they get the report as a gift for giving you that information. And I stopped doing that, and probably I'm no exaggeration. Instead of like I remember when it released this particular year, it goes from several hundred people downloading it because they gave me their email address to a couple of thousand people in the first week or so that downloaded it because I didn't ask for their email address. And then guess what happens? All over the world, people are saying this stat, and they found it in Shep Hyken's customer service and experience report. And it links right back to my website because that's the only thing I ask is if you're going to use it, make sure you cite the source and link back to me. So it is a huge, and by the way, it's not as hard to do that because you just have to come up with the survey questions that are good. And I'll let you in a little bit on how the sausage is made in the sausage factory. I looked at all the statistics that I would quote in my speech, and I go, why am I quoting other people's information? So I reverse engineered the finding and the statement that X% of people do this. Okay. Okay. What question did they ask that gave them that answer? Not specifically how they got the, I'm not going to, I want to create a question that gets me real good solid information that companies can use. So I reverse engineered these questions and I hired a survey company. I first used Qualtrics, big survey company. Then a gentleman named Jason Dorsey, one of the smartest speakers on the planet. I don't know if you've had him on the show, but man, is he smart. He taught me more about this and he actually worked with me for several years and became my vendor. Recently, I've been using someone else only because Jason and I are still very good friends. Don't get me wrong. I didn't leave him because I wasn't happy. There was a specific reason that he felt I would be better off. My survey expanded way beyond what we started with, and it was a much larger project. Anyway, this is fun for me because I get the data back and I get to geek out and write about it. I've got blog material, video material, tweeters or whatever you would call it, Xers, I can X with it. LinkedIn posts gives me so much content. And once again, when I write up that report, I become smarter. I'm relevant for what's going on right now, even though the concepts have remained the same. The data changes, which allows me a credible statement to say everything I'm sharing with you is backed by research that we've done. So anyway, I'm going on and on about that, but that is a huge opportunity for speakers and authors out there to become researchers. And then you're not just a keynoter. If people say, I don't know if we want a keynote speech this year. Well, yeah, but you like my information. Oh, yeah. Well, then don't look at me as a keynoter. You're bringing in a researcher who's going to make this information about what your audience needs to know come to life.
Yeah. Hey, Shep, are
Boom.
you a workshopper?
Meaning, do
Well,
I
you
do?
do keynotes. I just made up the word, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you have workshops that support the keynotes?
We do workshops, training, but guess what? I'm terrible at it. So I started hiring other people to do it. And that was something that happened in 2001 after 9/11. Yeah, I thought to myself, if we have another terrorist attack in the next month or two, there's no more people sending their entire teams to a hotel on an airplane. And I'm going, this could be bad. So I rewrote my material. I actually took one of my books and I had a content course designer that worked for a local company that did instructional design for courses, workshops, if you will. And I hired her freelance, and she turned my material into an 8-hour program. And she also showed me how to break it down. Everything was 15-minute modules. So I could do a 2-hour program. I could do, 3 days of 2 hours per day. I mean, all kinds of ways to slice and dice it. So I got my first big training gig. I went out and did it and found out I not only didn't think I was very good at it, I didn't like doing it. So
That's
I like to
interesting.
talk from stage, not throw something out and let them work and listen to what they feel.
Wow. Well, that's interesting. All right. So, well, you
So,
had me right up to this line.
well,
But for
yeah,
many of us, and we're talking about trying to sustain this industry
yeah,
of business, for most people, I think one of the most important moves is to look at that keynote and say, well, wait a minute. If you're the best thing they've seen walk in this room in the last 5 years, let's not let the relationship end now.
right.
So, I'm with you. 3 hours, half day, full day, 2 day. I
But
came
you're a
from
sales
Xerox.
trainer too. Sales
Yeah.
trainers are that's why they call it sales trainer, not
Right.
always sales keynoter.
Right.
But the point is that's exactly the position you take. You learn what they need, you deliver a great speech, and you ask whoever hired you, what are we doing next to make sure this material sticks? For me, it's not me coming back, it's one of my people coming back, expanding on my material. By the way, that's just a way that also allows me to scale my business and let others, because they could be doing work while I'm out doing a keynote. Doesn't mean you have to do it that way. You can do the keynote and the workshop. You can put together a whole package that includes your kickoff keynote and 4 quarterly workshops over the next year. And if you're smart, you've got a year 2, 3, and 4, right? There's nothing wrong with that. That's kind of how I was thinking when I got into this.
Yeah.
But I also realized if they're not hiring keynote speakers, they're going to probably bring me or my person eventually to the company where I'm the one traveling, not them. That was a beautiful move. Nito Cobain, well known in our business, taught me how to do that. After 9/11, it just was coincidental. He had a program there were about 20 some odd of us in the room that just donated a lot of money to his charity. And he was willing to work with us and open up basically all of his information to us to learn how to do what he did. And I'll never forget where he told us he did a huge number of dates. And then he said, but I did the keynotes and other people did that. I go, how does that work? And I learned. And within a year, I was in that business.
Yeah, where were you 20 years ago? I needed to bump into you. Uh, I got the battle scores to prove it.
Yeah.
Let's talk pricing. It's
Yeah.
tricky for a lot of speakers. And we're just going to have to bat this around because I don't know the level of speaker even. But how should someone be thinking about when they're setting their fee without either pricing themselves out or undervaluing their work, which I think is more common?
Yeah.
But any thoughts on that?
Boy, pricing, it's not that it's sensitive, it's tricky because
Hmm.
you don't know where to go with it. And I have a friend of mine, I just knew who they were and they said, you know what, I want to do speaking. And right out of the gate, because of the high level position they had at this company, they could charge a 20 plus $1,000 fee. Some people say, wow, I'd just like to get 2,000 plus dollars. Well, that's fine too. There's no right or wrong. And what I always suggest is let's start with the end in mind. How much do you need to make this year? Let's just round numbers. Let's call it 120,000, which is 10,000 a month. Wow, if I charged $2,500 a speech, and I did 4 speeches a month, 48 a year. guess what's going to happen? I'm going to hit my 120,000, right?
Right.
So start that way. And also realize if your materials, again, back to what I talked about earlier, need to reflect the level of fee that you are charging, okay? Then if you go out there and you can pitch it well, articulate it well, you get booked, and they think about how to use you again, you know you're in the right fee, okay? If anything, you're in a fee that might be too low. Let me explain why I think that. If you start getting booked more and more and more to where it's filling you way beyond those 48 speeches for a month, and that's all you really wanted to do, you say, wait a minute, I'm going to work myself to death. Obviously, let's put a little bit of a stop to this. I'll just raise the fee. And I'm just using 2,500 as an example. It could be
Mhm.
5,000, 20,000, doesn't matter. So I raise it 1,000. Maybe I double it, whatever. And I watch what happens. What does the marketplace tell me? Did they flinch? Am I still working too many dates? So you've got to work into what that fee is, realizing that most of the time when you start to feel like you're in that zone and you're at the right fee, you'll stay there. I don't believe in raising fees every year because of the cost of living.
Right.
I believe you raise your fee when you're so busy, you need to raise your fee to lose people at the bottom who can't afford much more and bring new people in. It's not like I'm disregarding the people who loved me back then because I have grandfathered people in for
You
years
and me
in
both.
some cases and
Yep.
giving them special rates. But the point is, this is how you know when it's time to raise your fee. It's really supply and demand.
Right.
And that's how I look at it.
Got it. Let me throw a couple of thoughts back at you. I agree with everything you said. For me, one, we have to look at the industry. So we keep mentioning I'm in the sales industry. The sales industry is used to paying. If the speaker is good, you go to those year-end meetings, you'll actually probably not get the gig if you undervalue that the
Right.
cost of your
That happens
presentation.
too. Yeah.
Right. So that's an industry that expects it. Now, I'll go to the universities sometimes. I'm doing that because I'm just trying to grow little jollises out there and maybe do something nice for the university. I'm not paying my own way, but it's a different industry. They're not going to pay that fee. So one is the industry. Two, I think we need to do some benchmarking. Okay, what do I got? I got a book, maybe not quite as successful as Shep's, but I got this better than Shep, and I'm trying to kind of measure myself out. So, but it is tricky, and the only other thing for me is once you set that number, practice it, practice saying that number,
Yeah,
because
you've got to get comfortable with the number
yeah,
because trepidation. I'll share with you a little trick. This is for speakers, right? Where the general
yep,
public isn't listening to this,
yeah, that's right,
and even if they did, I think it's a really interesting play. Uh,
right,
when I decide to raise the fee, I will often say, okay, there could be fee resistance. What I've learned is almost every speech, well, not everyone, but quite a few, somebody will say, can we negotiate the fee? I have a standard line that I use. By negotiation, are you simply asking me to lower the price, or are you going to and give me some incentive to do so? I mean, and you should know you're a sales guy,
love
so
that,
that's
yep.
like we got to be prepared for lines like that. And they think about it and they go, "Well, I just had to ask." Okay, so we learn that. But here's what I like to do. I'm going to test the fee, and what I'm going to do is my current fee is a flat fee plus travel expenses, a travel buyout. They give me a hotel room wherever the event is. They master bill that, but I charge a flat fee of travel, which covers airfare, ground transportation, parking at the airport here in St. Louis, or the Uber in New York, where I'll sometimes be hanging out. Anyway, the that's a flat fee. So as I raise the fee, let's just say I'm going to make up numbers again. I'm 2,500 on raising to 5,000, and I my travel expenses were $500. Again, that's not realistic, by the way. That's why I'll just throw that in there. And I think to myself, I wonder if I'm going to get any fee resistance when I double my fee, even if I added 500 or $1,000. So what I'll do is when they go and they push me and they go, we really can't afford that. What can you do for us? And I really feel they're serious. I will then say, well, what if I were to include the travel expenses as part of that fee? That would save you, you know, 10% or $500, but it actually would save them a couple $1,000s or so in the real world today. And they go, wow, you would do that? Oh, by the way, let's step back. I asked them if the fee is the only thing that's in the way between us working together. Because if you're still looking at other speakers, we're not ready to talk about fees. But if I'm it and we got to figure out the money thing, let's do it. Because if we come to agreement, we're going to work together. Fair? Fair. When I throw that travel expense in, that's a great concession. But guess what? What about the client that doesn't ask for that? You know what I do? I surprise them.
Right.
Once they say yes, I go, by the way, when you see the agreement, the only thing you're responsible for travel wise is the hotel. I build that into my fee. That consistency is important to me. It's ethical too. I'm not just giving somebody a better deal. There will be a certain point in time where I decide, you know what, I'm comfortable with this fee. Now I can start adding the expenses back on top of it. So it is a way to put a negotiation point in there when needed, or a gift to the client if they don't ask for it anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do some of that, but first of all, I've never ever just had a flat fee for travel. It's just travel expenses for me. But
Yep.
I'm going to think about that because remember, we're talking about the client here. You're
Right.
the customer service person. Who does that better serve? Probably the customer. Isn't that how we're supposed to
Yeah.
be ending most of our sentences?
We don't nickel and dime them with little
Right.
receipts. They don't see, oh, I had a meal at the airport that I'm sticking in there. That's me, and it's all on me. Now, if I'm local, I'm not going to charge expenses. If I'm in St. Louis and I'm going to Chicago,
Hmm.
there's no way they should pay that higher fee. I will give them a lower, it's actually almost half of what I would normally charge, because at the end of the year, like last year, I was within 5%. I used all that money in travel. But I will also tell you, it allows me to book the airline I want to book. It books, and if I'm traveling across country and I want to fly first class, the client doesn't have to say, what, this guy's charging first class? No, the client doesn't even need to know. They just got this flat fee of a travel expense. I try to make it easy for them. I had a friend of mine that used to raid the minibar when they went to a hotel, and then it would show up on the final bill. And my friend said, it's just a line item. They don't really care about it. Bull, they care a lot about it. They see that and they go, what was this guy doing running up $40 out of the mini bar?
Right.
That doesn't
Right.
sound like a lot, but why taint the experience?
Right. I agree with you. I actually am very sensitive about the things I do. I haven't hit a mini bar in 40 years. I would never do. I don't even hit it when I'm on the when I'm just with my wife. I don't want to be at that mini bar. But I'll throw an idea back at you. The only thing I do with travel when I negotiate is I really, for keynotes, like to get those books in there. I don't like to be in the back of the room selling books. And I tell my
Right. I don't
client when
sell
they're
the back
booking me,
either. Correct.
right?
Yeah.
I tell them when they go, and good news, Shep, we're going to let you sell your book in the back of the room. When they tell me that, I go, well, I'm not really sure that sends the best message to the audience. If you really like Rob, now you can buy his book and things like that. So what I do is all books are at my expense. I mean, I have publishers, but I'm going to knock it down to what I can get, what I get them for. Okay. And if that doesn't work, and we're now at 55%, 50, right around there. If that doesn't work, I grab that airfare and I say, well, I'll tell you what, it's important to me that they not only get inspired and motivated, but they implement what we're doing. How about I go ahead and pick up my own airfare and we apply that to the purchase of books? Shep, I can't tell you how many times in my career where I've had professional speakers before me and after me, making change in the back of the room, and all of a sudden the dollies come in and 400 books get wheeled in. Uh, and because I actually work out the math. Now my airfare was going to be this. Now we're at $2.29 a book, and I'll sign every one of them. But I really want that book in the client's hands.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's our
And
marketing tool.
Yeah, and to that point, when you see those books being brought in, I wonder how many of them don't sell that they got to ship back. That's a pain.
Exactly.
And by the way, I want to be easy on my client and easy on me. So my little book secret, if you will, is number one, for most of my books are not self-published. The first two were. So I
Hmm.
can give away a self-published book, but I can't afford to give away. So if you've got 100, 150 people, even 300 people in the audience, if it's appropriate, I'm not just going to give away a book to give away a book. But if it's the right thing to do, I may offer that up.
Yeah.
But pre-selling. is the way I do it and the way I've been doing it. So what we do is once they book me and I will send them samples of my books, they book me to speak, not to confuse the word book. They engage me to speak. So I will then send them books. And I said, by the way, here's some of the content that I might cover in the speech. Take a look at some of that and let's see if there's anything in there you want me to include. That plants the seed. In my pre-program questionnaire, are you interested in buying books? And what we do is, depending on the book, a minimum discount of 40%. Sometimes it's even more, depending upon what I'm able to buy them for. And I tell them, as long as you buy them up front, you can have as many books as you want at 40% off. And that's a
Right.
pretty good deal for them.
It is.
So,
And
yeah,
we're talking 40%. And, you heard me kind of hemming and hawing around 50 because, again, we're not talking about self-published books.
right.
We're talking about books from our publisher. I'm not going to make a penny I don't want to build any profit in the sale of a book, but I really want this to be a long-term relationship. All right, last question for you. I could go all day with you, Shep, and I really appreciate this conversation. If someone were listening today and wanted to go from, aspiring speaker to someone who's actually getting booked and walked away with one idea, what would you want them to take from today's conversation?
Wow. We already talked about smile and dial and pick up the phone. And today you do that on LinkedIn. But I would say content marketing for me, has been the strongest way I get business over the past 10 plus years. Mm-hmm. Every single week, I write a news article. It shows up on my blog. It gets emailed to my list. The blog, some people hit it there versus want the email newsletter. I create from that a video. From the video and the newsletter that I write, I get little pieces out and I tweet or X them out. I post them on LinkedIn. I put them on Facebook. I'm surprised at how many people look at my little quotes that I've created pretty quotes for on Pinterest. We have over 1 million people a year looking at my quotes on Pinterest. I don't think I've ever sold a wedding dress off of that. It's what Pinterest is. But no, it's like I'm everywhere that I can be. Yeah. Here's a secret, though. I'm a content creator, not a content activator, meaning I have somebody on my team that activates and amplifies the content. Once I write the content, that's my job. They grammatically edit it. They make it, pretty. They pull the best quotes out that they can put on there, and they make sure that 7 days a week there's content that's being put out there by me. So I do a blog, I do a podcast, I write for Forbes a weekly article. I've been under contract with them since 2013 or 14. So I just have these different pieces of content that go out every day, and in addition to that, we amplify it through all the social channels. So that is a pull method of getting business. And when's the right time to plant an acorn for the oak tree? 20 years ago, or even just today. Right. So you've got to start at some point, and it takes a little time to build up momentum. But that, in conjunction with all your other sales efforts, I think is the secret, at least my secret, for where I am today.
Perfect. You know what I thought you were going to say? So I'm going to be a junior Shep, and I'm going to throw in asterisk C bottom, this one too. I thought you were going to say the word discipline because you were hammering it. Oh, right. Yeah. So but I know that's in your wheelhouse.
7 days a week. 7 days a week is a disciplined schedule. I don't miss.
No, I call myself OCD-ish. Okay. And I'm the same way. I don't miss because I've never missed. Yes. And that makes it a little bit easier. You and I both. How do people get a hold of you, Shep?
Just go to the website, hyken.com, Hyken. There
it is. Well, I can't thank you enough for being on. We went a little overtime, but I go overtime with.
Well, thank you, man. It's been a pleasure. I know once you wind me up, I just start going. So you wound me up well.
Well, you know what? That's what I love about this show. I've done podcasts for many years, but this particular show, most of my guests, because they're professional speakers, they don't come in pushing their peas and looking down at their plate. They're ready to go. I think that's who we are. That's why we're in this business. A pleasure meeting you. Thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure, Rob. Thank you.
You bet. Well, we'll do it again as well as we can next time, everybody. Until then, stay safe.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please follow, rate, and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. For more resources and to connect with Rob, visit thepresentationwhisperer.com.